Hello, everyone! Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show. Hello, everyone! Welcome back. We're live on YouTube, so that's encouraging. We're kind of in between classes here right now, and actually, if it wasn't for the fact that this crazy COVID nonsense has got everybody sort of locked up and society's just not working right now, I would be taking a break and I would be going on vacation and doing fun things, but gee whiz, there's nothing to do. So, and what a depressing Christmas environment. Ugh. So, I've just been hanging out at home, and of course I'll spend as much time with Liam as possible. But yeah, like Vancouver, Larry, you're here in Vancouver, eh? The spirit here is just awful. I mean, it's just, ugh. Actually, it was kind of funny. I was, I don't know, anybody in the Hangout actually went and got cleaned up a little bit. You can see in the camera there. And I was, the little hairdresser I go to is, she's Persian. And it's so sad. She was even telling me stories in Iran. You're not even allowed to sing. Isn't that awful? No dancing, no singing. And she said men have to go to men's haircutters and ladies have to go to ladies' haircutters. So I wouldn't even be allowed to go to her to get my haircut. Man, this silly species. It's so screwed up. Anyway, hope you guys are enjoying. I'm sure we probably tripped up the Google stuff there right off the bat. Mention the sickness by name. Shouldn't do that. Big no. Big Brother's gonna come after you. I'll tell you though, I mean, I'm to be perfectly honest with you, I would rather have Big Brother come after me in the West than Big Brother come after you in China right now. If you are a professional tennis player and you are in China right now, what do you do? Oh my goodness, terrible. Frankly, China, you should be ashamed. You should be absolutely ashamed. But of course, they're not. I was thinking about drawing up a cheeky little cartoon of Winnie the Pooh. Taking a little tennis player from behind and asking her if she's enjoying the ride. But that's probably a bit over the top, eh? Yeah, tell me about it. This screwy world, man. Screwy world. It would be great if our society could actually get some morals and ethics again. Wouldn't that be awesome? So, ready for some red pill consumption event. I like that. Hey, I have no idea whether I'm going to, provide any value or not. But if it's one thing that you're going to get, you're going to get a big old whack of truth from the Beamish. I mean, frankly speaking, I'm shocked that this whole tennis player issue in China has been completely swept under the carpet. Nobody's talking about it. Absolutely terrible. And if anything, all of you living in the West, all of you people with delicate, let's call them anal sphincter muscles, do you really want that kind of society? Is that the world you want to live in? Because it's coming. If we don't stand up and say, hey, you can't get away with that kind of stuff, it will happen here. So, oh well. What can you do? Definitely I use my personal Twitter feed to speak my mind. Probably get me in trouble one day, but definitely if these Beijing Olympics go through, oh my goodness, every single damn day of the Olympics I'm going to be reminding them. So, yeah. Guys like Jack Ma, live by the sword, die by the sword, but man, the anecdotal evidence is piling up. Jackie Chan, and I don't even know the name of this lady, but I can't pronounce it. Every time I do try to pronounce it, I completely butcher it. But nonetheless, I mean, sexual assault is not acceptable in this world. And terrible how it's just being covered up. Absolutely terrible. Anyway, there's your rant. Get me in lots of trouble. Sorry, Julian and Seward. But, well, if anything, one thing I like to do is I like to call this Broiler Chickens. This is Brian's craziness. I'm going to just sort of give you my straight goods. I'm certainly not speaking for the company. So. Well, no, I am. I mean, gee whiz. TRI is all about PMA. So I can't believe how egregious this is. And it's just not getting addressed. It's terrible. So, anyway. Positive mental attitude. We need to stand up for our rights and don't let Big Brother walk all over us. That's probably a super important message in this current environment. I have to say, I get the distinct impression that the public is just getting utterly exhausted here. And I do hear the same drum beats over and over and over. And then I also hear this sort of same sort of, it's sort of over the top enthusiasm, unbridled enthusiasm. I think was a description that was used in Seinfeld, in a Seinfeld episode forever ago. For the DeFi space. It's quite remarkable to watch. Julian's here on the call here today. Julian and Seward, they've been like hip deep in this DeFi space now for the past year or so, and I think they've been having a lot of fun in it. Maybe even a couple years. How long ago did Seward get excited about that thing? I think it was early 2020. Yeah. So, no way of knowing when this frivolity is going to end. Usually, we often say that these things end with big honking scandals. So, did see a few kind of scandalous kind of stuff that's emerging. Andrew, of course, is very intimate in the venture capital space within crypto, and working with Colin, our Pump Chaser Zone guy, and their group. They've done very, very well through all this build out. The only word caution that I have and the worry that I have is the people that were here when Bitcoin was $3,000-$4,000, and they just would not give up, and they believed in the space, and they believed in the various participants, and they bought into the stories, and they invested. They've been rewarded very, very well. But new people coming to the market right now, are you going to be able to enjoy that same over-the-top percentage return experience? I have my doubts. And what I'm worried about, and I even said this, you can sort of see the writing on the walls. So, half the problem here is, do you actually listen to the warnings? Listen to the writing on the walls. Through the weekend, yesterday I saw this, and I was like, oh my goodness. So what I think's going to happen here is it looks like these major corporations now are going to cash in on this NFT event. But what's fascinating is that the corporations themselves are going to just download this onto the cryptocurrency space with regard to customer support, which makes no sense whatsoever. And the problem is these boneheads, do they really understand cryptocurrencies? Maybe Adidas gets away with this, but there's 100 of these corporations all chomping at the bit, right, wanting to take advantage of this. Hell, There's even past political figures in our society whose wives are being encouraged to take advantage of this NFT sort of silliness. And the irony of it all is that theoretically these NFT assets are supposed to be unique, non-fungible token. Only so many of them produced. And yet the irony of it all is if you look at, I think it's Melania Trump has an NFT now, and it says they're totally unique, but there's unlimited in circulation. So technically, if people just keep calling up and wanting one of these Melania tokens to promote her passion for the arts, whatever the fuck that is, they can produce as many as the public demands. And this is just basically like pet rocks or Beanie Babies. It's the same freaking thing. And it's kind of ironic because it's happening just about exactly the same part of the cycle. And I think what ends up happening is as we go through these Jupiter-Saturn crosses, there's sort of two diametrically opposed events. There is the interest rate peak, where it's like double digits interest rates. The cost of money is ridiculous, and of course, those that are sort of subject to the interest rate cycle can get absolutely destroyed, and a lot of people did in the late 70s, early 80s. I think I told you a great story about Vancouver real estate was some guy bought a house in a hootin' neighborhood here, and after the market broke, he took out an advertisement saying, buy my house and I'll throw my convertible Rolls Royce in for free. That's how desperate I am. So I don't think we're in that kind of environment. We're in the exact opposite end of the cycle, which is interest rates extremely low, historically low, threatening zero. And really, I think that's exactly how the interest rate cycle goes. And theoretically, actually, we were supposed to be in a deflationary environment there. We were supposed to see prices fall. We were supposed to see the economy contract. And our beloved banksters and our democratically elected politicians that can't tell the truth and can't balance budgets and stuff completely undermined us. So, as a result, they kept the same pricing model through that whole thing. Now we're back in an inflationary environment. Oh, goodness. And what's worse is I'm noticing that sort of more and more people are sort of with it with regard to these cycles. So this last cycle that was supposed to be a commodity-friendly cycle, right out of the gate, the commodities just took off and got bid right up, to the point where actually the crude oil market actually topped about halfway through the cycle. Then we spend the back half of the cycle with the price just slowly working its way back down to earth. And actually, technically, crude oil now should go into a bear market for the next 15, 20 years. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. So, I can see the writings on the walls. You can see how this story's going to end. It's going to be an absolute mess. But hey, enjoy it while it lasts, right? Make hay while the sun's shining. Also, too, and actually this would be, I think mana and this Decentraland and all this kind of stuff, I think this is going to become a big theme for our society going forward. One thing that I'm noticing is that a lot of people are sort of saying that, humans are being corralled into this sort of brainless, social media kind of myopic zombie kind of world. But I thought, I had somebody on this site a while ago remind me, and I thought this was such a cool reminder. And I even showed this to somebody yesterday that I don't think it's so much social media's fault. I think social media just so happens to be filling a need that we humans actually, we want this in a weird sort of way. And I thought there's a really cool tweet that I put out, and somebody showed it to me just to remind me that, yes, the the cycle is different, and there are different things that are underlining the sort of fundamentals of the picture. But at the end of the day, it's all about us being humans. And what is the sort of typical story of the human life experience? So this, you might argue, this is this could very easily be a whole bunch of people with their heads down, buried in cell phones, looking at and scrolling through all the news releases and all the different social media, and nobody's interacting with anybody else. And I'm sure if you were in here, it's very, very quiet as everybody's all sort of disconnected and buried in their newspaper. So I thought it was a fascinating, and I've shown this to a few people that are kind of going, hey, you know what? Actually, this is getting really serious. The 1% is really taking over, and they're really brainwashed us. And you got to go, well, actually, I think this is just it's the same. It's business as usual. So yeah, I really do think that. And the thing is that you. What kills me, and I always say this to people, and of course people hate when I say this, but how do we know that we're actually at the very end of a typical sort of trending market state? The answer is literally as soon as somebody says, well, this will go on indefinitely because this time it's different. As soon as I hear those words, literally the stopwatch has just been hit, and it's just really a question of how long does it take for everything that normally happens to happen. So, my perspective here is that actually I don't really see anything new. What I do see, and it sucks horsecocks, is that this is a very, very difficult part of the cycle. Very difficult. This is, it sucks. I mean, like, if I was sort of like, when do I want to be born and when do I want to die? I would prefer to be born in about sort of like 20 years or somewhat, be a, when my parents were born in like the 1930s and 1940s. So they missed the Spanish flu. They missed the Great Depression. They were children then. I think I told you, a lot of sight people tell an interesting story about relative value. My mother used to tell us stories about during the Great Depression, people couldn't pay the rents. And so actually they used to pay their rent in chickens. Go figure, eh? But she was a kid, and she used to go around with her parents collecting the rents. And she would have to come back with a whole bunch of chickens. Anyway, the point being that this is the toughest part of the cycle. Toughest part of the cycle. And I actually think, I think actually we're coming out the backside of the toughest part. And, they always say it's always darkest before the dawn, right? And those kind of talks. In 2000, if I had sat here and I had talked to you people about the economy and society and all that kind of fun stuff, you would have been like, are you kidding me? Everything's fucking awesome, man. Growth is going to, excuse my French, but growth is going to go on endlessly, and we're all going to just get rich, rich, rich. Buy the market and don't look back. I don't know whether you do know or not, but there was a popular stock back then that was all based on the internet growing endlessly, a company called Nortel Networks. And actually, the funny thing is Nortel used to actually be the equipment part of Ma Bell. The big before they broke apart the telephone company. So Nortel started out in life as just a spin-off of all the equipment from Ma Bell. And I remember I used to prospect back in the late 80s when I had a job selling fax paper over the telephone. Brutal job. Anyway, I used to come in every damn morning and look at that Nortel Networks telephone and hated it. Anyway, so and how ironic, they're gone now. The company went bankrupt after the dot-com bust. So, and when I was a broker through that, and I try to tell people, well, Nortel Networks and the dot-com boom, it's yesterday's story, and probably not a good idea to invest in it. It's the exact same thing then as now me saying something like, I think investing in China is actually yesterday's story. In fact, you look at something like actually putting your money to work in China, and really right now, let's even zoom out. I think you could make the argument that there was only this window, not even this window, and this window. If you had invested in China, oh boy, look how bad it gets. Okay, so here, this is kind of interesting. So if you invested in China where we are right now, over the past 10 years, decade of investing, you've lost money. It's kind of interesting, eh? I thought you were supposed to. I thought this China was all the shit, man. It's the future. No, no, and no. So how ironic, eh? So everybody was piling in, falling in love with Winnie the Pooh, and yet that was the exact wrong thing to do in the marketplace. I mean, geez, look at this. Where was that? Yeah, here's the Chinese Olympics. I think I told you. In fact, you can see it circled. That I believe that this whole silliness out of China, this whole economic expansion, it actually ended the day of their Olympics. And they've just been sort of riding the inertia of that build-out since. I mean, ironically enough, if you had, the day that you had that Olympics in Beijing, and how ironic, it's going to go coast to coast, right? But if I can't even show you this, if you had invested in China in that Olympics story, oh, look at the Olympics, China's the future. I mean, you're getting destroyed here. I mean, you're not going to be able to retire investing that way. You cannot invest that way. If anything, there's a fantastic reason. Do not buy the day the Olympics open on anything. If anything, that's the end of the move, not the beginning. And proof of the pudding is in the eating. You could clearly see. So, I suppose a lot of people are going to look at this and go, oh yeah, but look how cheap it is. It's totally cheap. I don't know. I think what's going to end up happening here is you're going to have one by one, and this is exactly like that Nortel Networks kind of scenario, that all of these companies that did make fortunes on the build-out and on the stupid real estate bubble there, which is happening, exact same thing should happen here in Canada, they're all just going to one by one disappear. So we'll see how it goes. I thought it was interesting. There's no reprieve here in the selling. Maybe the government comes out and bails them out and eventually takes them over. But the worst part about this is entirely politics, and I got a funny feeling these people are not friends with Winnie the Pooh. If they were friends with Winnie the Pooh, they would, oh no, I better not say it. I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm just going to leave that story alone. Bottom line here is, in my humble opinion, China's old story. That's history. That's investing backwards. That's not tomorrow as far as I'm concerned. And now, with this whole Beijing tennis issue, I think they've got themselves painted into a corner. I mean, they literally should arrest that gentleman, put him on trial. That's the only way they're going to rectify this in the world's eyes. Rectify. Interesting. Okay, so that's the backdrop of international markets. The interesting thing is, and I think a lot of people are discounting the United States of America, but I actually think the United States of America is actually probably one of the only safest places in the world to invest right now. There's a contrarian view, eh? But I'd actually argue that the United States of America just went through, this was the Great Depression. And their fear cycle, you see the greed cycle. Greed, bid stocks up. I'm going to get rich. Everybody's getting rich in the stock market. Then the generational down part. Oh, no, you're not. It's all a fugazi. I mean, we all know now it's all based on credit and it's all bullshit. The bubble gets inflated. And what bothers me most about this, what scares me really, is I think they're going to do the same thing here. And they're going to blame the sickness. Hey, we got to reflate the economy. We got to bring it back. When we all know it's all just a debt fugazi. It's all just a scam. You know, that's half the reason why you guys are buying Bitcoins. Yes, that's right. I said it, Big Brother. You don't understand, Big Brother. This generation doesn't buy your bullshit. You're either going to have to make this illegal, or they're just going to keep buying their Bitcoins, and they're going to buy less and less and less of your fugazi story. It's just that simple. And I see it happening. I see it. I run into people now, and this is actually a really good analogy of sort of where we are in this cycle, that at the end of these sort of fear cycles, nobody has any faith in the government anymore. If anything, through this, the Great Depression, they actually had to have a global war and actually get it to the point where, you know, your government was basically a dictator. I mean, every government, whether it be the United States of America or France, what was left of it, Germany, Russia, Spain, Italy, they all went basically the road of dictatorships. I hope we don't have to go down that road again. It was interesting. I heard Ray Dalio recently say that he figures that that democracy is actually in pretty big trouble here. And I have to say it, I hate to say it, but I could see that, And the worst part about that, of course, is, and I'm right there with you. None of us in the West, we haven't actually even lived through these kind of scenarios. Maybe we should be asking Winnie the Pooh and Winnie the Pooh fans what our new life is going to be like. Tell you, can't say things like Winnie the Pooh, that's for damn sure. So, I don't know how that's going to go. I'll tell you, though, other than the fact that I've got Liam, so Liam keeps me here in Canada, I'm really warming to the idea of moving to a country like Portugal or something like that. For some reason, I think I heard you can buy land for dirt cheap. And, of course, they have some pretty friendly capital gains tax stuff there. So, it might be a safe place to sort of hang out if you can find these sort of like crypto-friendly zones in the world. If you have the ability, it's not such a bad idea to seriously consider that. Also think, too, that United States of America is going to have a really interesting probably 4 or 5 years ahead of us. I was quite pleased, for whatever it's worth, because I'm a capitalist at heart. We run a business. We take no, handouts. We try not to, just because the prices at the grocery store are going up and your friendly government says, oh, there's inflation. We're not going to try and, jack our prices up as much as we can. Here's a really good analogy of this fucked up world economically we're in. Perfect analogy. And it's also a really good analogy of the economies that our Western society has imported from Asia. I went to marijuana here in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver and in BC is legal. So went to my government dispensary and, of course, did my civic duty. Point here I thought was fascinating was the paraphernalia you need to do this, right? I needed rolling papers, right? No, anyway. And I went to, there was a smoke shop, and this is kind of weird. I mean, it was a smoke shop, and you would think that at a smoke shop they sell cigarettes and paraphernalia and all that. And then there's a grocery store right beside it. So the smoke shop is run by, lack of a better term, people that are relatively new to the country from Asia. And I went into the smoke shop, and before I bought, I just wanted to ask, because that's the type of consumer I am. How much are your rolling papers? And the guy goes, blah, blah, blah. And I go, woo-wee, that seems awfully high. This is a smoke shop, right? You cater to sort of the smoking crowd, right? Yeah. This is, this is basically where you come if you want the good stuff, right? And all that kind of blah. I go to the grocery store, and the silly rolling papers are half the price. Half the price. Now, why on earth is this guy charging as much as he is? You can't blame inflation. This guy is charging as much as he is because he figures he can get away with it. And what we need to do is we need to get back into an economy and back into a society where the consumer goes, what the hell are you doing? You literally can see the evidence that these companies are trying to gouge the consumer. It makes no sense. And after I went to the grocery store and I got it, I went back up to him and I said, you do realize that this is a smoke shop. If you are a smoker, this is where you want to go and get treated well. And hey, and your prices are 50% more. Why would I even bother coming in here? And of course, everybody in the store is like, oh my God, how can you say such things? But that's the way I am. I had to go into that store and remind them that they are gouging their customers. And the only reason why they are is because they can. And I don't like that about this society. It's like when I was growing up, Canadians were actually known internationally as nice people. As, you're not going to get screwed over by Canadians. But you international people are corrupting our society. I'm just going to say it. And it makes me sick to my bloody stomach. Terrible. Oh well, it's going to get me into a pile of trouble. But frankly, like I said, I went into the store and I let the guy have it because he has no right to do that. And the only reason why he's doing it is because he can get away with it. And I think that's the kind of environment that we're going to be in here now. This feels like we've imported the Asian boom-bust economic model. I remember when we went through the Asian contagion, it was absolute, over the top. In fact, here's a great analogy. I remember in 1996, I think it was, maybe 95, 96, 97, somewhere in there. It was called the Seven Tigers of Asia, and they were all the rage. And Indonesia was one of the seven tigers, and everybody was investing in Indonesia. And it was a humongous gold scandal, just a staggering scandal in the gold market. And while the scandal was going on, and I've told you people in crypto, same sort of thing, while the bull market is going on, the scandals are happening. So whatever it is that's going to bring us to a crashing end here, it's happening now in crypto. It's like the Adidas stuff that I showed you. It is happening now. And of course, the public will come in, orgy, buy the top, then market breaks, scandals revealed, and then, oh my God, call my lawyer, and we spend years in fucking litigation, all these people getting absolutely destroyed. Anyway, same thing happened in Asia, but the analogy there was really interesting. I went to, there's dog and pony shows, tons and tons of people in Indonesia coming to North America because the North Americans thought there was gold there, and all of a sudden this property that just was basically worthless, 6, 8, 12, a few years, 10 years prior, now all of a sudden it's everybody's rage. So this little guy who owned a sugar plantation came to Vancouver and was shilling stock. A gold company bought the rights for mineralization to his property, and he knew there was no gold there. But he came to North America to placate all these investors. And man, it was like The guy was like a little despot, and he actually did the snuff, like you snuff in your nose, the stuff. I couldn't believe people still did that. And literally, he sat there on his little sort of podium and just acted like a little king. And, stupid Brian, of course, says, well, are there any proven reserves on your property? And everybody's like, yeah, like, how dare you actually ask the king a question? I was like, what the hell is this nonsense? Well, I got a funny feeling we have now imported that existence into Vancouver. That is interesting. I'm a cheap ass by nature, so I don't want to spend a hell of a lot in rent. While I'm trying to look for a house for my kid, I want to try and keep the rent that I'm paying as low as possible. So I'm haggling in that sort of like $2,000 a month, $2,000. Do you know there's condos in Vancouver? I was looking on eBay the other day. They're going for $16,000 a month. I mean, if you just try and wrap your head around that, that's $16,000 a month. So a year, we are literally talking about $200,000 just to rent a condo here in Vancouver for a month. Or for a year. $200,000. What the hell is going on? This is insane. And it is, we've basically imported this Asian boom bust society. There's actually a layer of aristocracy that sort of sits right on top of our society now and calls the shots. And hell, they can even get away with things like raping their national tennis stars, and they're untouchable. Sad. So anyway, welcome to this crazy world. I guess I'm the type of guy, I'm just going to try and float underneath the radar screen, and I probably will never even live in that type of world. But wow, shocking what's happening here. So if anything, what we have to get used to is I get the impression it's going to be this kind of environment where what they're going to do is the only way, first off, we've got all this crazy ass debt in the Western world. It's not going away. The United States of America is still the hegemony currency proxy of the world. I think that the banking and the financial class looks at what's happening in China and is scared poopless of that. They look at a guy like Vladdy and they say, woo-wee, I'm not touching that. And what other alternative do you have? I don't even think, I think we would have left the hegemony sort of society if there was an alternative. But there just isn't any alternative. So I think it's sort of just like, we're all in this together. Germany, UK, France, the pigs nations, they're even worse. So you can't get any leadership out of Europe. And of course, we got Vladdy there knocking on Eastern Europe's door. That could turn ugly pretty quick. And if anything, I wouldn't even be surprised if the euro does come under pressure here over the next sort of 10, 15 years, as that threat of Vladdy on the doorstep just gets worse and worse and worse. If anything, this should be music to somebody like Sjord's ears, because of course he's in Europe and TRI gets paid in US dollars. I actually think that the euro, it could be in trouble here for the next little while. Where's probably the best place to show you this? Yeah, the euro is at E6. I can't remember how. Whoop! I won't do it there. Try to do it over here. E6 1 exclamation mark. Yeah, that looks a little dangerous. Because here, actually, isn't that interesting? They don't even show you the price action before the turn of the century. Those cheeky buggers. So if you're the public, you don't even realize that actually this thing was much, much lower back last century. Isn't that funny? So this is the market bottom. This thing actually turned up here. Um, and I might argue, actually, this was even, whoops, oh, you can't even draw here. Darn. This thing was, can I? Oh, yeah, okay. So it was swimming around here. I remember at one point it was down around 60, 70 or so when they first brought this thing out. And that's probably where it needs to go back to in the late 90s. I remember that. Now, keep in mind, the late 90s, that was the very end of that big US dollar bull market. So that's the extreme. We've just started this news cycle. So this news cycle, theoretically, according to all of my calculations, so it just started here. So ironically enough, and this is what I mean by they forward push this. I mean, theoretically, what should have happened is, you start with the start of a trend, and it just works its way up and up and up until the cycle peak. That's exactly how the .com, or not, well, actually, yeah, the .com, but also, too, things like the Great Depression. That's that chart that we're on, right? There's the .com rally. So, the cycle started actually back, here, 1980, right? And it was just a beautiful grind right up into the end of the cycle. Why? Because at this point, not a hell of a lot of people were invested in stocks. The problem with this part of the cycle, of course, is that I think a lot of people were invested in commodities very, very early in the cycle. And they just bid it up like right away. I wonder where the best... Yeah, here. So this is probably a good way to show you. The gold market actually, theoretically this commodity cycle, right? There's the beginning, there's the end. I would have thought that historically, like the 1970s gold bull, it peaked right into the end of the cycle. But in this particular case, remember, George Bush and all his cronies were in here. They knew what was going on. Right, and then remember we said this was actually the Chinese Olympics right there. So interestingly enough, they still even pushed the market up. Of course, they did this, the gold market, because this was the Chinese top of the market, and then the Chinese went, okay, we're done, we're out of here, see you later. And of course, they pulled the plug on all demand for commodities. They also said, okay, we're done with your U.S. treasuries. And then that sort of led to the unwinding of the U.S. Mortgage market, and the revealing that actually most of this part of the cycle was total nonsense, bullshit. Actually, no, I guess. Well, I mean, it would be sort of this part. So the government had to go and buy all those bad debts off of the Chinese, which of course there is that adding of all that sort of paper to the U.S. system. But, like I said, in the 1970s bull, actually this topped at the end. So I get the impression that, George Bush and all the cronies and all that kind of stuff, they knew everything about this cycle. They knew exactly what was going to happen. And they were kind of like, you know what, we're going to take advantage of this. We're not going to let the Democrats take advantage of this. We want to milk this for everything that we could right now. And they did. They absolutely did. So, what I'm worried about here is they might jack equity up right at the beginning of the cycle here as hard as they possibly can, very much like they did to commodities, because everybody knows this. Everybody's paying attention to this. So, they all know that this is the growth cycle. So are they going to jack prices up as high as quickly as they possibly can right away? And then, jack all this inflation in here right away? And then we spend 15, 20 years just slowly grinding back down like we did here. And, that's basically what happened through this part of the cycle. So this is coming out of the Second World War, coming out of the Great Depression. This was the fear cycle. You can see it's almost identical. I think that they're going to spend as much time as they possibly can trying to jack the market up as hard and as fast and as violent as possible, which means lots and lots of price inflation here that we have absolutely no control over. Then the Fed's going to come out probably in like, maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe. Is it after the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative stuff is done? Maybe 27, 28, 29, they start coming out and saying, you know what, we have to start reining in, and we have to start taking back all the credit and all the funness that we gave you through all the sickness, and the buying the bad debt off of the Chinese books, and really everybody's books for that matter. And now, the Fed's got all this debt. It's on the books. Now they've reflated the economy, and now they're actually going to go through the process of cleaning everything up and probably unwinding their balance sheet, which is going to translate into probably about 10, 15 years of sideways, which is, fear, greed, fear, greed, fear, greed, goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. One thing that I do see is that not a lot of people can really sort of wrap their heads around this. I keep sort of mentioning this idea, but not a lot of people can wrap their heads around the stock market, the Dow going to 100,000. A lot of people just can't wrap their head around that. I think that's what happens here. Who knows where the hell the NASDAQ goes. So. At the same time, too, it's never in a straight line. And, this is a very long-term chart, monthly charts. So, something like this little window in here, or something like this little window in here, or even through here, that's like, this is like, what is that? I mean, I'll just say what it is. It's this was 1945, and the market didn't recapture that high until 1950. So that's 5 years of your life right there. Could we spend a few years doing one of these sort of backfills as, things like the credit cycle cleans itself up? And I hate to say it, folks, but, interest rates are rising right now. They're not falling, which means, there's two key drivers in all equity valuations. Do you know what the two key drivers are? They are earnings and they are interest rates. So, key drivers for bull markets, like through a period like this, and then through a period like this, it was strong US dollar, falling interest rates and low interest rates, and actually this makes sense because Spanish flu, all that kind of stuff, and rise in corporate earnings, right? And through here, of course, we had the build out of the U.S. Sort of post-industrial revolution. Guys like Westinghouse coming out. RCA. The advent of things like radio and television, all that kind of stuff, electricity in the household. Same thing here. In this case, we had the end of the Cold War, so a strong U.S. dollar, falling interest rates, and a friendly interest rate cycle, and rising corporate profits. And especially with the whole downsizing, right-sizing, all that bullshit. Corporate profits did very, very well. So, unfortunately, in this scenario here, and this percentage move was just monstrous. And actually, I'm actually kind of I don't know what the word is. I'm scratching my head right now, trying to think about where the hell did I put it? Yeah, here. Whether we're going to follow more of like these two studies here are, you can see it. There's, this is a study of these cycles going back to the Great Depression. So there was the following cycle, or the cycle coming out of the Great Depression, greed, fear cycle. So this would be sort of the greatest generation. Think of people like George Bush Sr., right? People who fought the Second World War. And this is the baby boomers generation. Which sort of scenario are we more likely to follow? I would have thought, because we're coming out of sort of the Great Reset from sort of Klaus and all that kind of talk, I would have thought our picture would have looked more like this. But the interesting thing about this environment was they took the bad debt and they put it on the government's balance sheet, which in essence means it basically just disappears. This scenario, this cycle, they've taken the bad debt and they put it on the banker's balance sheet. Now, they actually, I'm surprised more people don't talk about this. Like the Ray Dalios and the BlackRock Capitals and the Larry Finks. And I'm really surprised more people don't talk about this. But historically, the U.S. government coming in and buying up all the bad debt in the market through the Great Depression, at that time they called it things like the Tennessee Valley Authority. It was labeled like socialism, but ironically enough, it actually turned out to be an incredibly profitable trade. Because most people that had these bad mortgages, really the government just said, just try and make the payments and just, if it takes an extra 10 years to pay back the debt, so what? The Tennessee Valley Authority, it just sat there and it just was a government agency for a very, very long time. Also, too, in the early 1980s, they had the S&L crisis, and it was sort of the same thing to a lesser degree. If anything, it was perfect for the banks because the S&Ls were actually the one institution that was standing in the way of the banks. So it worked out beautifully, the 1980 S&L crisis. Just destroyed the S&L industry. Anyway, point here is I would have thought that this cycle would have looked more like the coming out of the Great Depression, out of the Second World War. At that point they had a global reset called Bretton Woods. And actually, technically, we haven't had the Bretton Woods event yet this cycle, but I would have thought our cycle would have looked more like that. I suppose you could argue that if there is no Bretton Woods, then we're actually more like the baby boomer cycle in that this was, I hate to say it, but the basis of the baby boomer cycle was formulated in 1971. That technically, I think you could make the argument that the world of the post greatest generation was put in place when basically Americans left the gold standard, and the confiscation of the nation's wealth. What's interesting is that actually there was a big confiscation of the nation's wealth through the Great Depression. There was a big confiscation of the nation's wealth through the 1970s fear cycle. So, interestingly enough, I guess you'd have to make the argument that quantitative easing and the way that they're destroying the value of the U.S. dollar here through printing of money and quote-unquote monetization of the debt is this cycle's confiscation of the wealth. So, ironically enough, actually, it's just business as usual. So, what does this cycle look like? And I hate to say it, it looks like, so I've overlaid. And this cycle, this one, this is the baby boomers. So that's the yellow one. And this cycle is the greatest generation. That's the people who fought the Second World War, George Bush Sr., all of them. And I hate to say it, interesting how, the baby boomers, they had a bit of a rally out of the gate, then a big thumping, then a big counter-trend rally, and then notice our current cycle, gee whiz, that sure looks pretty similar. Rally right out of the gate, big thumping, then big honking rally. Sure is a lot of similarities to this. So notice, big honking rally, notice the pullback here. We're not looking like those greatest generation cycle. If anything, greatest generation cycle, we would have just gone sideways for a while. Remember what happened in here. Shouldn't we debate mortgaging our kids' future? Shut the fuck up, you stupid democratically elected politician. What the hell are you doing? You're ruining our business model. All right, let's get another 100 trillion bazillion gazillion dollars nobody has and go and inflate the economy. Woohoo! But that's basically what happened, folks. So now we've got 100 trillion gazillion extra dollars floating out there. The market is gone, what the fuck are you doing? Are you serious? And said, look it, you're going to go print all this money. The money's worthless. We're going to devalue your currency, and we're going to raise the prices of commodities right across the board. You can't get away with this. So as a result, all the prices go up in our society, and now the populace is bitching, going, hey, what's going on with all this inflation? I mean, are you guys allowed to do this? It's already after the fact. Remember, we showed you our gold chart. The gold chart, ironically enough, the problem was here, right? You can see this. The gold market saw this right away. So here is, 2008 financial crisis. There it is right there. And instantly the gold market went, all right, you're going to go and dilute your currency and pull off this quantitative easing, and instantly the gold market, basically, what is that? I mean, I think the price doubled or tripled. Boom! There's your inflation. Merry Christmas. Now, the interesting thing about the gold market, and this is what really has me perplexed about all this, is if you actually look at this image, I mean, who could tell me? Is gold supposed to be rising in an inflationary environment? I think so. Isn't that how it works? Anyone? This is the price of gold divided by the number of dollars outstanding. So something's not right here. Why is gold price going down? The interesting thing about what's going on in our society right now, and I've heard this from about 2 or 3 different sources now of late, and it's starting to really gain some traction. Technology is moving very, very quickly, and technology moves at an exponential rate of growth. And the problem here is that, we see these, debt figures and the amount of money that the Fed's printing. Of course, the numbers are hard for us to imagine, but it's also rising at that exponential growth rate. That's why we see these crazy ass, debt figures. But the interesting thing is I actually think that technology is growing at a faster rate than the debt problem. So ironically enough, they could actually even dilute the market even more if they wanted to. That's something that I don't think you can wrap your head around. And that's what leads to this. This shit. Is that based on this gold chart, this is not inflationary right now. I mean, that's what's fascinating. We're actually living where deflationary forces are actually incredibly powerful. And I would make the argument that this sickness is incredibly deflationary, which of course is going to destroy the banker's business model because they must have inflation. It makes her a tricky backdrop, folks. Now, the interesting thing is, and of course this is where all you Bitcoiners come in, is Bitcoin a good store of value story? And I think it is. But the problem here is that this asset gets bid up like any commodity asset, and you have to ask yourself, I mean, honestly, folks, come on. This is what is that? 1700% rate of movement here. Now, love you dearly, but have we actually seen 16, 15, whatever, in this case now 1,374% price inflation? I don't think so. I mean, I know all of you are going, no, yeah, we have, this is totally justifiable. I don't know, folks. I mean, I like the idea that, yeah, basically this thing is built in to double every, 5 years? Because that's probably the rate of inflation. So, keep in mind that we were talking about mining Bitcoins just even, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago at a few $100s a Bitcoin. Now, I mean, I know, I appreciate that inflation's bad and it's ugly and everybody hates it, but are we really doing 1,600% inflation? Seriously? And in fact, I'd actually make the argument that we're actually in a very deflationary environment right now. The only reason why you're seeing prices move up here is because they have to deal with the debt problem. And so they are going to try and artificially inflate our way out of this problem. Anyway, I have no idea where the hell or when this is going to bottom. I do find it interesting, historically speaking. I like the idea that the market it tops ahead of, I guess you can see here this halvening event. This was like 500 bars before the actual halvening event. This market bottomed and then started working its way up. What does that say? 537. It's about 400 bars of down. I usually tell people that a very typical bear market is around 18 months. That's really typical bear market. So that's about a year and a half. Year has 365 days. Half of 365 is what, 180? So 365 plus 180 sounds to be about 100 or 540 or so. So if we start getting around that 500 days prior to the halvening, 500 days following the peak, you really should be thinking about some sort of trough. I totally agree with this community. It is an excellent store of value story at or around the cost of production. The only problem is are we even remotely close to the cost of production right now? And I know you guys are going to hate me saying this, but I even now think right now we're sitting at about 4 or 5 times the cost of production. So, caveat emptor, do with this information as you please. This doesn't necessarily mean that this market is topped. As you can see, there was another nice push higher here just as of late. So if you had said this is the top and we're going straight down, well, you would have looked really foolish. Interestingly enough, I actually thought that we were going to go parabolic here into the end of the year. I get the impression, though, that maybe this was more to do with Mr. Karpelès. It's beautiful to actually read the story of Mr. Karpelès, because I think, to all intents and purposes, it was a beautiful scam. That typical end of bull markets. That's the way these things go. And I get the impression somebody knew that Mr. Karpelès was not actually buying Bitcoins with customer funds, and they wanted to run him. And they did run him. One thing I did notice that about this particular cycle is, and actually it's interesting, even somebody sort of mentioned it there, is there any part of the market that maybe is eating a little bit of Bitcoin's lunch now? Just the same way Bitcoin ate gold's lunch. And I've often suggested this, is if you are a Bitcoin maximalist, then you're thinking that this story, this cryptocurrency story, grows vertically, which I suppose is that image. I think that, and my argument all along has been that I believe that this cryptocurrency story will grow horizontally, which means that this is kind of last cycle story, Bitcoin. Of course, the Bitcoin maximalists hate that kind of talk. I think it did very, very well. Anybody who had the balls to buy that Kevin bottom I often go on about, That's like 20x. So you can't say you didn't make some damn good money. But I get the impression that this story, this particular cycle, is actually more about assets like Ethereum and the world's supercomputer. And now what I see is a bunch of other people are building sort of, they're replicating what Mr. Vitalik has done here, and they're building their own supercomputer networks. And I see a lot of money pouring into this space. So, curious how this story ultimately ends up. There's also a lot of people in this space that are saying, well, actually we think that this cycle is not going to be 4 years, but it's going to be 5 years. It's going to be 4.5 years, and it's going to be extended. And we're going to keep to the bull side, and we're going to keep thinking higher here. If they take Bitcoin price above 200 and some odd thousand, I told you, my plan says I actually start selling Bitcoins. So, I have a funny feeling I'm not going to be selling any Bitcoins for a while. But that's between me and you and the fence post, okay, people? I'm sorry. But I publicly made it aware that, hey, if you're going to run Bitcoin up to 200-300 grand, I'll be more than happy to let you have all the Bitcoin you want, at least whatever I have left in my kitty. And I'm changing my name to Sedona Euphoria, right? Cromwell remembers that. I think I'm keeping the Brian Beamish moniker for a little while longer, folks. Sorry. I really wanted to change my name too. Damn it. I think that's a kiss of death. Whenever I say I'm going to change my name, literally, that's that. When I started going on about that on Doge, that was like literally within weeks of the top. So, go figure. I don't even want to start with Alan. I mean, is anybody going to hold Alan accountable for that bullshit that he did? Anybody? Why doesn't anybody say anything? What am I missing here? If I shilled some fucking story and just like, oh, you guys are going to get rich. Oh, you're going to do great. Oh, in a word, buy Beamcoin. I don't know, whatever the hell it is. And just touting it and probably running his own algorithms, running the price up. I mean, isn't anybody going to hold this guy to account? I don't get it. Yeah, everybody actually thinks very highly of him. Still, I don't get it. Nobody's going to hold him to account. I don't know. Ryan and his crazy ethics. I can tell you right now, if I actually did what Alan did there, I wouldn't consciously feel comfortable actually coming and talking to you guys. How can you believe anything that he tells you? I don't get it. You can't believe anything that he's telling you. You can't. I mean, even the people that are investing in his company right now. Anyway, I have such a stupid belief that my word is my bond and that you guys trust me. And that I'm not going to shill you into some sort of top. If anything, I'm going to say, you know what? Probably best that you just leave it alone. And no followers, no likes, no hit the subscribe button. Hey, what's Alan touting? Oh yeah? Gonna get rich off it? Fine, I'll go buy it. Lots of likes, lots of touts. And there they are, sitting bag holding Doge. And frankly speaking, I don't know whether they are ever gonna see their money back. I don't know. So sad. It'd be actually kind of cool to see a class action lawsuit develop out of all that. That's what should happen in the United States, to be honest with you. I'm surprised more lawyers aren't jumping all over that. Because you could definitely say that Alan's got deep pockets. So you could definitely say that the lawyers, there's lots of ammunition for them to go after. I don't know. Okay, I have to say I'm really, really impressed with the job Sjord has done here, bringing the dashboard on board and getting it live. If I understand correctly, we're just within a whisker of actually having a sellable product here. The overview page looks pretty good. This is basically what you're going to see on a Monday through Friday kind of basis. And these links here will actually link you to, hey, sign up to the site. And students should get this as well. It gives you an opportunity to work on your journal. I really like this addition to the site. Totally awesome. And you get a nice little summary of our Brian's rants. And also Julian's in here and Sjord's in here as well. And we also have every once in a while a guest speaker that comes on and speaks. So really cool stuff. Josh does such a great job on this this Twitter feed now. I'm so impressed. Way to go, Josh. Josh also actually taking care of the blog posts as well. So, and I wanted this on here as well so you can actually see this. So you've heard me go on about the Benner cycle, and so Josh has done a really, really nice write-up of the Benner cycle. Just beautiful work. So thank you so much, Josh. Great stuff. So, you sign up for the 30-day trial. That's basically what you're going to get. And then if you want to sort of join the site and, get the sort of official dashboards, this is mineable information where you can actually pull up things like the S&P 500. Actually, probably that's not the best one. It's too big of a list. But, hey, for this crypto community, oh, my God, this is super sexy. In fact, I put this in the lounge the other day. I need help from you guys. I need, right now our top crypto list, as you can see, it's got a grand total of 27 names in it. And some of the names are not relevant. I don't know why that ADA's not coming in. We got to fix that one. But I noticed, we got CRO priced in BTC, so that's not working. We got DAI, which I think is one of these stable coins. We don't need that in there. But on balance, I want this to be sort of like a Dow Jones Industrial top 30 of crypto. And then we can just sit and surf. And, man, this is so freaking cool. Because I'll tell you, when this market's a buy and everything's bottom, can you see how a lot of these names, they basically kind of look the same, eh? You can see beginning of saucer bottom, but we're still making lower highs and lower lows. Beginning of saucer bottom, but in this case it looks like a megaphone. Beginning of saucer bottom, maybe, but still making lower highs and lower lows. Still making lower highs and lower lows. Still making lower highs and lower lows. So hopefully what you're seeing here is, a lot of people are like, oh, well, just Bitcoin moves on its own. That's not actually true. You actually see a lot of these. They move in unison. So, this is a great way for you just to get a really quick view. I mean, just me scrolling through this, what do you think, guys? Does this look like a bull market? Does that look like a bull market? Does that look like a bull market? That looks like it's just breaking down now. Uh-oh. Does that look like a bull market? We got this DAI in here. That's not really useful. But, so a couple things I'd like from the community is, number one, can we put a list together of what are the 30 top names we want in here? And obviously we don't need things like DAI in there. Okay, so already we're starting to get some feedback. So, I don't know, let's have a volunteer. Site member is a volunteer who wants to quarterback this project. I think it would be a great idea. Anybody who's really a crypto enthusiast, you really want to take ownership of this? Well, ownership's probably not the right word. I'm looking for volunteers. But this is a great project for you to be sort of contributing member to the site and help Sjord out. Just fill this out so it makes the absolute best tool for all of us to use on a regular basis. But I'm so pleased to see this. Finally. Yeah, we're getting there. So interestingly enough, I think that this image actually summarizes what you saw on that page pretty well. it's not really like the market is completely bottomed. It's like we're sort of trying to saucer, and you can see the fight going on back and forth. Does that look like a W? I mean, look at our teal line. It looks like we went down and then straight up. We probably have to come back down again, test these lows, then turn back up, W out. So if anything, what I want to tell Sjord is this needs to be 45 days for us to see. And then this needs to be 15 days. So we're still working on it. This picture will get better and more user-friendly for you going forward. In fact, actually, it's really cool. I'll show you. This is how far we came. This is totally... Hey, look at that. Where'd it go? Hey, Sjord. So Sjord's over there on YouTube, the silly knucklehead. So are you going to volunteer to be our top 30 guy? That would be great. So you see Sjord over on YouTube. You want to make friends, influence people, just reach out to him and say, look at Sjord, I hear Brian's looking for somebody to help Sjord get these lists all nice and crisp. Boom. PMA for the win. 1 + 1 = 3. That's the whole reason why I built this whole website and community. We make better stuff when we all work together. Somebody take a soundbite of that, because that shit's gold. All right. What did I want to show you? Oh yeah, this is cool. So just so you know what I've been working for. We've been working on this for like 4 or 5 years now. This is incredible. But actually, Sjord actually asked me to take the website down, so I can't even show you the actual website. I have to show you it through the Wayback Machine. Is this it? And see if I can actually get it. Come on, you. What's going on? Come on, Wayback Machine. Because this is worth it. Trust me. So give me a second. And actually, you'll see Brian's version of coding versus what you guys all know as coding. So this is my old 1980s website. Let's see if it even loads here. I was the rational investor way before knowing either Sjord or Julian. Actually, that's interesting. First time I saw it was back here. But let's go. When did I really get going with the boys? Probably here's when this was before I knew them. 2014, 2015. All right, ready? 1980s website. Here it comes. Boom! And I remember everybody who came on and I showed them this website, they're like, oh, Jesus, the colors. Oh, that's horrible. What are you doing to me? So anyway, the point here is that this was my baby. This is how I operated before I knew Sjord and Julian. And here was my DI index. This is what I was trying to get replicated through Sjord. So we finally made it. It's a miracle. But it's so cool that they have this Wayback Machine, so I can actually show people what this looked like way back when. It was called the Delacour Index. Oh no, well, I can't show you. Oh well, I can't show you the screen results from that particular page. I'd have to log in. But I think the front page should be cached here. Come on, baby. You can do it. Come on. You can do it. Jeez, it takes a while for the Wayback Machine to find this stuff, eh? Anyway, so actually while that's loading, so let's see how Sjord's doing. This is the current version, and notice that only goes back to like the middle of November. It's okay. I mean, we're still working on it. What I need is, notice this is what I want. So notice this is past 45 sessions, so you can literally see the oscillation back and forth. And then this is the past 15 sessions, which is what we have, I guess. We got, what, about a month's data there. So we're getting closer. It's within arm's reach, right? You can see... Here's my old histogram study of all the different sectors. So, like I said, Stuart's so close. He's almost brought this thing back into the 21st century. And so you can see top 500. This happens to be the S&P 500. Actually, for the site version that we want to have running, this is what we want. I want the top 5 ETFs. So we can actually go, and at any given point in time, you can actually see where is the money flowing into. Remember I said earlier how the euro could be in trouble? Interesting how the absolute worst performing ETF right now is the euro currency. And this just looks like a train wreck. What do you think? Whoosh. We supposed to think anything if we see big M's staring us in the face? So the interest, and this, look at the heavy sell volume here. This is just an outright sell. Just stay the hell away from it. And the bottom line here is that's exactly what here. This is telling. This is interesting. So our algo right now says stay the hell away from the euro. Stay the hell away from the Swiss franc. Stay the hell away from the Australian dollar. Stay the hell away from EWA. Who's that? That sounds like Australian stocks. Let's see what this is. Australian stocks. Stay the hell away. Now, who can tell me, what is Australia a really good proxy for? Does anybody know what Australia is a good proxy for? Does anybody know what the word proxy means? More like just raw commodity demand. Somebody said Chinese economy. I mean, it used to be in years gone by that Japan actually was the big economy there in Eastern Asia, and it was Japanese demand for all the raw commodities. Point is, like Japan would get all their oil from Indonesia and the Sultan of Brunei, and he would get all his iron ore and all his metals and all that kind of stuff and grains and stuff from Australia. So the fact that Australian stocks are stay hell away from makes sense. Also, too, there's the Australian dollar. So we're getting like a double negative out of Australia right now. What do you think? Remember I had said earlier, how do we, and actually this would be a good trivia for you guys. Let's see if anybody, most of you have probably fallen asleep here by now, eh? What are the 3 things that you want to see in a bull market, a raging bull market, to justify investing in that country? I told you this very quickly about a half an hour ago. Let's see if anybody was listening. Fact, so 3 things I want to hear. What are the 3 things you must see in a bull market to invest in a country? I'll fill my coffee up. Let's see if anybody can answer this. 3 things. Keep it simple. Don't overthink this stuff. All right. Anybody have any answers? No? No answers at all, eh? All right, Sasha, not bad, not bad. You're getting there. But what I want is, what are the 3 things that are in a bull market? So, how do we define low interest rates? And more importantly, is it low interest rates or is it the trend in interest rates? Good, Andre. There's one. Again, is it just a strong currency or is it the trend in the currency? None of you guys here in this hangout here, none of you even want to just even take a chance? Even try a little bit? Okay. Oh, well, what I want to hear is what are the 3 things you want to see to invest? So what I was looking for, I didn't even get it. The only response I got in the hangout here is not a chance. What the heck does that mean? Anyway, number 1, we want to see a strong currency, a rising currency. Why? What does that imply? It implies either the company or the country is exporting more than it's importing, so people are buying their dollars to buy the products that they're buying off the country more than they are selling the currency to buy foreign goods. So we want to see a strong currency, and we want to see that currency trend rising. What's Australia's currency trend right now? Is that rising or is that falling? Maybe I should zoom out a little bit. What are we supposed to think if we ever see letters of the alphabet, M's? Is that a rising currency or a falling currency? It's a falling currency. So there's a big... All right. Now, what else? So I've said 1. Anything else? And you guys were right. We want to see falling interest rates. I don't know what, it might be interesting to see whether we can find it. I actually used to, eons ago, actually great old analogy. This was actually the last report that I produced as a broker. And then once this was, after this, I did no more work as a financial advisor. This was May 2009. Wow, is that ever forever ago? But can you see in this particular case, what are interest rates doing in Australia? Are interest rates in Australia strong and rising? Well, actually, you wouldn't really know whether they're rising here. But relatively speaking, does it make sense that I could go borrow money from these countries and go invest it in these countries and literally make a spread profit, right? I could go borrow $1 million from US, go buy Australian dollars, and I'll get 3% on $1 million, which is what? $30,000 somewhat? Yeah, I think that's about right. And I'm only paying 0.25%. I'm paying like about, what's that? Like 1/10 the fee. So I'm basically borrowing $1 million in the U.S. market at about $3,000. And I'm going to go and buy Australian dollars, and I'm going to go buy the Australian Central Bank's T-bills. I'll collect that 3%. Then when the T-bill comes due, I'll take the money back to the U.S., convert it back into U.S., and pay the person that I borrowed back the U.S. dollars. Does that make sense? Yes? No? Maybe so? So, in this case, which way, and somebody do me a favor, tell me after 2009, did the Australian dollar go up? This is the way economies work around the world. All it is it's just simply an interest rate differential. It's really just that simple, folks. So, what's the Australian interest rates now? Are they up top here, or are they kind of weak? I don't think they're nearly as strong as this. And I guess what I was trying to point out was actually you can often see what the demand for a currency is based on these interest rate differentials. So You have strong interest rates on the short end, which implies a relatively strong economy, which actually drives a strong currency. Then you want to see low and falling longer term interest rates, as that boosts productivity. And also, too, what do falling interest rates actually imply? Actually, this would be an interesting trivia question. Let's see if you guys can figure this out. If interest rates are trending lower, then by definition, what does that mean is trending higher? And why or how does this happen? It only happens one way. So first question is, if interest rates are trending lower, and I'm thinking like longer term interest rates, what does that by definition imply? Economic growth, that's fine. I mean, yes and no. I mean, technically falling interest rates could be a sign of sort of economic malaise. But no, actually, Werner, think about that logically. What does more borrowing actually imply? Because if we have a falling interest rate environment, then actually that can't happen. Now we have a falling interest rate environment. What does a falling interest rate environment by definition imply? The answer I'm looking for is a rising bond market. That's how you get interest rates to fall on the long end. Is the bond prices, the coupon is fixed. So to get interest rates to fall, that must mean bond prices must be going up. Right? And if you look at a bond, any of the bond proxies over the past 40 years, what direction have they been going? US 1 exclamation mark. There is your US bonds, right? T-bond futures, weekly price chart. Does it not make sense? I mean, who tells me? Who can tell me? Over the past 20 years, what direction have bond prices been going? And then, if we overlay that, and this has been the whole sort of thing, is TNX. This is the yields on the 10-year U.S. Treasury. What direction have they been going over the past 20 years? Down. So, the point I'm trying to make out of all of this is to actually have like a rising stock market, rising, sort of wealth of a country. You really want to invest in a country. You want to see a strong currency. You want to see rising bond prices, which by definition implies falling long-term interest rates. And actually, ironically enough, you want to actually see strong short-term interest rates, implying that the domestic economy, the demand inside it, is actually fairly robust. So, three things we want to see. We want to see strong currency, strong bond prices, strong stock market. You get all three of those pointing in the same direction, oh boy, market is just going gangbusters. And I would make the argument that that's, they said that Australia enjoyed literally like 20 years of no recession at all. There was a long period here. And actually, even as the Australian currency was coming down, you can see the writing on the walls. But even through here, the economy never went into recession. Remember, I did that report I just showed you. This report, that was May 2009. So can you see, coming out of that great financial crisis, Australia and the Chinese economy and all that still pretty strong. There is May, where's May 2009? December, January, February, March, May, right there. So, based on what you saw in that picture, Australian rates so much higher than the Americans' rates. Does it make sense? A lot of people went and borrowed money in the U.S. This is the Australian dollar versus the U.S. They bought Australian dollars and they bought the T-bills with that money. And boom, up goes the Australian dollar. There was so much demand for that trade. This is what they call the carry trade. It's actually pretty normal. So, point being that, unfortunately, we're not in that kind of environment now. In fact, it would be interesting, and that report I put together was like 10, 15 years ago. It'd be interesting to see whether we can even get another one, a report like this. I bet you this website doesn't even exist anymore. Let's see if they're even around. FX360. Now, you can do this on almost any Forex trading site. They'll just give you sort of relative rates on currencies. I mean, I don't think that specific link probably doesn't exist anymore. It'd be just interesting to see whether this website even exists anymore. But you want to do a quick Google search and somebody tell me. Oh, there you go. Look at all this. Woo! What the hell is that? Seriously, you're attempting to access is not intended for residents of Canada. So isn't that interesting? So Canadians, they've really cracked down on all this CFD products page, where they have to put like legal disclaimers. According to your big brother, you're not supposed to be here because we're technically crooks. Okay, be careful. Anyway, I was kind of hoping, I don't know how we're going to do this, but I was kind of hoping they might just have a nice little table of all the different rates. Yeah, I don't really see anything, and just off top, I haven't been here in forever, so you can see. But I was kind of hoping that maybe there might be a nice little table to show you the spreads of the interest rates. But let's see, maybe something out of this. If anybody happens to know one, we get a pretty good idea of where money should be flowing, based purely on who's outperforming currency-wise. And I can tell you, based on TRI's website, it ain't Australian dollars right now. That's for sure. It's interesting what they're doing to Canada here right now. I will say that. That does surprise me to a certain degree. Notice the Canadian dollar isn't in this shit list. So, avoid the euro. Avoid Australian stocks. Avoid the Swiss franc. Avoid the Australian dollar. IWM, I think that's actually like Russell 2000. Small cap stocks. That's not good. Yeah, so the Russell 2000's not happy at all either. This is going to take some time to clean up. We might even find that this is a shitty Christmas. It could very easily be the case. Well, anyway. How about places where we should be investing? Let's see where we should be concentrating. Hey, the 7 to 10 year bond market. Oh, that sounds sexy. How about this one? What do we got here? This is the 3 to 7 year bond market. I'm detecting a bit of a trend here. EWL. Let's see what this is. Isn't that interesting? We saw there a moment ago that the Swiss franc actually is shit. And this is an interesting one where actually the stocks of Switzerland should be okay. And I think what happens here is as the Swiss franc devalues, and really you hope it devalues maybe at a faster rate than the euro, Swiss stocks themselves, which actually there are a lot of gold stocks in there, they actually start outperforming. And they actually do better because the Swiss franc is coming down in price, so their profit margins actually expand. So that's interesting. So Swiss stocks, of all things. How about, what do we got here? I think this is Mexico, isn't it? Mexico! I do find that interesting. So I remember Billy Gates. He got all excited about Mexico a few years ago. In through that financial crisis. That's, remember Bill Gates, he went on that... actually, so one thing I don't like about this is it doesn't stay out. Just stay put. Don't move. Don't move. All right. Bill Gates came out and was like, I'm loading up on Mexico. And I hate to say it, the story makes sense. Because I don't think that the Americans have lost their desire to try and keep the cost of sort of their stuff that they buy at Walmart cheap. I think they really like that. And as a result, of what's happened out of China, I think this whole supply management concern issue is for real. And, like I said, Billy Gates, he's like, hey, you know what? The Americans, we're going to move all our production over to Mexico. So you can see Mexico did pretty darn well. And even Canada, to a certain degree, has done fairly well. So it's interesting how Mexico has fared. Now, having said that, would I want to invest in this? Yuck. And that's a big honkin'. There's like an M within an M here. So even with this being as great as it is, that is not a pretty image to me whatsoever. Couldn't touch that. And what do we find? Oh, yeah, and this is one of these sectors. So, Stuart, I don't know whether you're watching this. We got to have a better solution. It's weird. The quote service that we've gotten, this is like we've got all the U.S. sectors, but they're being reported as Euro ETFs trading on the European Stock Exchange, like SXLP. I mean, what we really need, and this is probably just me just talking with Stuart, is we need XLP. So the chart looks like this, nice and clean. So I'm not quite sure how we deal with that, but this we've got to correct this. But it is interesting, that's a pretty damn strong market. Consumer staples, who would that be? Well, things like it's like Campbell's soup, maybe. Ooh, little W. How about Procter and Gamble? Yeah, there you go. Boom. This actually is not really a very positive sign for the growth part of the market. And actually, hopefully going forward, what we'll do is we'll actually create a sector rotation. Yeah, I mean, look at this thing. It's just all over the map. So we got to replace these. But it's interesting that this probably is one of the stronger parts of the market. The interesting thing, though, is, if you're thinking, we'll just do a quick little summary of this. What time is it? Yeah, I got to get ready to go to Liam soon. All right, so this is sector rotation modeling. Different parts of the market will do better or worse given different parts of the economic cycle that we're in. And the consumer staples, there it is there. You'll notice that it comes following materials and energies rally. A little bit before healthcare. We are noticing, when we do our weekly TRI SOF club meetings, we are noticing that there are a lot of healthcare stocks that are bottoming out. In fact, my little piece of shit pharma stock that I was buying all this fall, I'll be buying some more. Is it CL? Yeah, I think it was this one. I'll be buying some more here. Here's, I think, a really, really good example of pharma just absolute crap. Train wreck. Brian's buying the whole way down. Like, we're now into basically the tax loss selling window, so they only have up until nope, not even there, till there to there to do their tax loss selling. Once we get beyond this date, tax loss selling season is over. So is it a good idea to go and pick up some more of this into that event window? I definitely will be. And could we see rallies up to fill in gaps and stuff into the spring? Absolutely. So I think there's a lot of money to be made on a name like this. So I'll be in here buying some more, and I bought a whole bunch the whole way down here. So, but it is interesting to notice that a lot of these pharma names and stuff, they're all sort of bottoming. I get the impression too that sort of after the Delta variant and all that, and I suppose we're not supposed to say that, but everybody kind of went, okay, that's it. The sickness is over, and pharma names not so much. And now this latest one, it's like, oh no. So we'll see how it translates into people getting more and more sick. But I do get the impression, I think they're saying that another shot is needed, so that'll probably boost pharma profits. But also not necessarily just the sickness, but I am noticing a lot of pharma names are just washed out, like their part of the cycle is done, or getting ready, like their washout is done and they're getting ready. So it's interesting how consumer staples is outperforming right now, and this is a little scary, right? Because we hear about the Fed wants to start raising interest rates. They're talking about market tapering, right? Usually, that's at this sort of market top. The energy markets and the commodities, they were all booming there. So it is interesting that even our little ETF on the top ETFs, it's sort of already starting to say that consumer staples are outperforming. So I get the impression we're right in this area, and actually this would make sense that over the next month or two, we're probably going to see the pharma and healthcare sector sort of outperform as, sex symbols like Mr. Fauci all of a sudden become all the rage again, right? God, here we go again. Anyway, it's interesting that consumer staples are coming up there as an outperformer here. We'll see how that goes anyway. So, what a great little, gee whiz, I could spend all day just going over this. And the great part about it is you can break the whole darn market apart now. We can literally, you're like, okay, well, so consumer staples are kind of interesting. Well, let's go take a look at some consumer staples. Actually, here's like consumer cyclicals. We got anything going on over here? Maybe. Well, let's go see. There's 100 names in here. Don't think this actually is the right sector, though, because we got like Amazon and stuff in there. Ooh, Amcor, I don't know what they do. Isn't this cool? Literally, you can just literally surf the whole darn market and all the stuff that we teach. Look at this one here, total reload zone. What do you think the odds are? There's probably nice little bull divergences setting up here. And of course, if that big old W fires, away we go. Look at this one. Carnival. Now that's interesting. I'm surprised Carnival, and hasn't W'd yet, that's for sure. But if it does, we'll pay attention. I know they sure knocked it down hard. Not really seeing how. Ooh, look at this one. Oh, the gap. Isn't that interesting? This doesn't look like this isn't the right sector. Because what we should be seeing here is all the. This is like the, hey, I got money to spend list. This is not the, hey, I got to buy the conservative stuff. So anyway, fun we can show you how to surf through this and try and get to know the different sectors. Medical devices, healthcare, right? This is what I think should be trying to bottom here. Ooh, yeah, that one took off. Amerisource Bergen. Ooh, a Biomed. Interesting. Well, and really all I do is just, the great part about it is we got the screeners. So the screeners are still spitting up signals as these things come in. And notice this Biogen. Where the hell did it go? Whoops. There it is. Interesting. Maybe a nice little test of that low. Keep an eye on him. Anyway, so this is how I would do my... Ooh, look at this little guy. Charles River Laboratories. Interesting. Keep an eye on that double bottom. Yeah, so we just got... gee whiz, a lot of these have just jumped straight up. So, I guess what I'm seeing here is some bottoms with a little bit of a bid. Ooh, look at that one. Insight Corporation. Maybe we should take a look at that one for the meeting tomorrow. Intuitive Surgical looks like it's trying to put in some sort of bottom there. So anyway, I mean, really, this is the kind of thing where all we're doing is we're just W hunters. We just go hunting the W's. And exactly like I showed you on the crypto top 30, it's the exact same logic. Nothing changes. Love this. So basically, this now can become just a massive research platform. I think guys like, and then keep in mind, you can build your own screeners with the really advanced membership and stuff that you like to have in your screeners. You can totally build that out. This is just sort of the default settings. Yeah, I was kind of hoping I could see consumer non-discretionary, but I just don't see it here, and I could spend hours just going through this. All right. Hey, let's take a look at some signals. Let's see if there's anything worth chewing on here out of this thing. So, U.S. stocks, Federal Realty Investment Trust. Interesting. IDEX Laboratories, Fortnite, FedEx, Nielsen's. Who's weak? Transports, Cintas, CBOE Global Markets. Isn't that interesting? Remember, if we're coming out of that peak in the cycle, then commodities should be topping out. Bless you. Some 52-week range names. Might take a look at that later on. Key reversals! You know how much I love key reversals. 14th of December. Actually, I seem to remember we talked about this. These are the sort of entertainment stocks. They were spitting out key reversals. I don't know whether any of them actually fired or not, though. Let's see. Interesting. Oh, look at that. It did fire. So, and everybody's like, I hate Comcast. Those guys are jerks. So, by all means, if you don't like the company, you don't have to buy it. There's Charter Communications. I think this is also another media company. Oh, look at that. Key reversal, signal fire. Look at it going. Oh, look at the beautiful W in there. Oh, my goodness. This is a nice bull div as well in the DI. I do believe now, Stuart, if you're watching this later on, this is what we have to figure out. How do we get the, if DI is in a bullish divergence and you have a key reversal, that's like a double super signal. So this is what I'll be working on over the months ahead is building out these signaling systems. Oh, so nice. All right, so that's where it's looking nice. Remember we had that Twitter back at the end of November. Let's see how it's looking now. This was a bearish signal, so fascinating. It's fired. Now maybe this thing goes and W's out, but I'll tell you. I mean, I don't like taking the trade here. Terrible location. But fascinating that the the bearish signal seems to be even now correct. Some weekly signals here. Key reversals on the weeklies not coming in yet. Canadian stocks. Interesting. Telephone stock here in Canada bullish. So, fascinating. U.S. telephone companies. Look at that. So, we're getting bullish readings out of the U.S. telephone companies. And we're getting bullish readings out of the biggest Canadian telephone company. I get the impression there's a bit of a signal going on here. Brookfield Asset Management. Who can tell me what industry is that about? Brookfield Asset Management. Have I been talking to you a little bit? It's real estate. Canadian real estate. I'd be curious just to see what this thing looks like. Oh, goodness. Ay. I mean, who knows when the hell this thing falls apart. But can you guys see the gaps all the way down here? That's almost half of the price. And keep in mind, this is a massive company. I mean, just a massive company. So the fact that they're topping out here and flashing warnings in the Canadian real estate market, that's not good. 50% roll screener still not really working that well. Interesting though that this look at that Crombie Real Estate Investment Trust. So there are still some areas that are relatively firm in real estate there. So oh, look at this, another telephone company. Do you guys get the impression we're getting a bit of a message here, people? Do you see how this is working? Do you get? And I don't know what's going on in the telephone industry, but clearly we're getting a lot of signals in the telephone industry. Somebody is bullish of telephones. I don't know why. Suppose, interestingly, that Brookfield Asset Management, remember when I zoomed out, it was like $30 at the bottom and it zipped up to $70, $80. This thing in that exact same range, $23, $28? So do you see how this thing hasn't done nearly as well as the real estate market? How ironic. Nobody's interested in telephones. And actually kind of boring, right? That's a utility to all intents and purposes. But 5G, oh, okay. So somebody's mentioning that 5G is coming alive here. But do you guys see how we're getting a bit of redundancy in our signals? That's exactly what you want to see. Like, clearly the market's trying to talk to us. Like, seriously, this is how you use this kind of information. Is you're literally getting, oh, look at that. Has Brian said anything about the Canadian banking sector? I thought it was interesting. I went through, like last week on the site, I was horrifically bearish of TD Bank, CIBC, now Bank of Montreal. And look at this thing. It just gabs violently lower. I mean, you can't even take that signal, right? It's valid. Yes, that thing has flashed the outside downside key reversal. But you got to work your order up here. You can't take that trade there. So, and it's great analogy, fantastic information. And again, do you see how this all is working together? I'm super bearish of the Canadian financial services. We got Barbie and fucking substitute drama teachers running our country. It makes sense that this country is an absolute train wreck and is not a place you want to invest your hard-earned money in right now. Look at that. A couple more real... And these are key reversals. Jeez, this is serious stuff. I tell you, man. It's serious stuff. Super cool. Okay, so interesting. So these are our weekly... Actually, this would be interesting to see. Weekly trend signals out of the U.S. This Southern company. I can't remember what they do. Coca-Cola. Well, sort of. McCormick and Company. Hey, Walmart is actually giving a weekly buy signal. That's kind of interesting. Let's see what Walmart looks like. Tough one. You're definitely coming in at the top end of the range. Something I couldn't buy. Have to see what that weekly chart looks like. Let's see what's Stewart trying to get us to see here. I don't know, man. That's tough. Let's go. Boom. What time is it? Oh, I should wind this up. That's iffy. I'm not quite sure what Seward sees there. I don't know whether these weekly signals are working or not. I don't know. That looks like it just crossed bearishly, not bullishly. Last time it crossed bullishly was way over here. So when's that? That's back in July. I wonder what Seward sees there. I don't see what Seward's seeing. Looks like this needs a bit more work, so not quite sure if I agree with that. So I think the weekly signals are still a little bit messy. Anyway. All right. And then, of course, this is the part of the market that you really want me to concentrate on. Screw the goddamn OK Boomer crap. Let's get on with the real market. Oh, crypto. Who knows what's a doc? Does anybody know what a doc is? Is it worth taking a look at? Boom. Let's see what we got here. Doc. I have no idea what this is. I don't know. I think that might be a bit stretching it. I'm not quite sure what you're seeing there. Obviously, big green dildos. On heavy volume too. That's pretty impressive. I gotta go see what the hell this thing is. Stuart, what the hell have you got us interested in here? That was a weekly chart I put on there, right? So I'm not gonna check. Okay, Doc and crypto. Let's see what this is. I'm not overly impressed. Not quite sure what we're seeing there. I think I'd probably just leave something like that alone. So, looks like we need to, and actually it'd be interesting. Oh, this is versus BTC. That's why. Maybe we'd be a little bit better. I'm not the biggest fan of studying this stuff versus BTC. You guys know that. I would prefer to look at this versus currency. Okay, so this makes sense. It came down here. I had a big up there against all these lows. It's at the bottom of value. Probably the indicators, they're pointing up, pointing up, pointing up. Some pretty good volume. I mean, it's not something I would be overly excited about, but I guess I can understand why. It wouldn't be something that I would buy, though. I can definitely tell you that. So, I don't know. I think I'm a little leery about these sort of momentum push names. And interesting how we're getting them versus BTC. Like I said, I don't like trading these things one cryptocurrency versus another. It gets really dangerous. This is interesting, though. I do like when I see this, where you just get a buy signal. Now, this came in on the 18th. But notice, it's right across the board. BTC, USD, USDT. So we're getting it right across the board. So let's see what the hell this thing looks like. Boom. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now we're cooking. What do we call this? Higher lows, higher highs. And yet, market was making lower lows and lower highs. Do we give our... oh, yeah, I think so. Do we give a name? And actually, we've renamed it because she's basically TRI's mom now, I think. Which is cool. And I hope she stays that way forever. But if we see a W in something like an OBV with a W in RSI, remember there's that bull div. Actually, there's even a W in MACD. Not the best looking W in Willie, but Willie is officially stupid. No. Interesting. We got to 79.54. Almost stupid. Not quite, though. But not a bad W there in Willie. I mean, there is a W there, and a W there, and a W there. What do we call those? Like I said, we've renamed this, and actually might even rename it on the site a little bit better. But not a bad signal. Not a bad signal at all. So, on the volume breakout, could you have bought this double bottom? I mean, if you know the fundamental story and you're comfortable with it, it's okay. I think probably for a guy like me, I would be like, I think we're just stuck in a consolidation here. This is where you got to pull up the price chart ahead of time. I mean, it makes perfect sense why we got the bottom in there. I like that signal. It's not bad. The only problem is there a heck of a lot of upside here? I think this is probably like a Hogue 80% play. So we went down bottom of value, and then we're going to wash top of value. Good part about this profile, though, is that is what's called a full profile. So really the question here is, do these guys have a story? Does anybody know? Is there some sort of fundamental reason why we want to get interested? And that is the ultimate to this. Really good analogy of this is why did Brian, and we're going to refrain from making any reference to TRI's silent partners going forward, but why did Brian make so much fucking money on that Luna? Why is he so fucking rich now? Well, I tell you, yeah, and the answer is the person I'm not allowed to say. But I get scolded by them. They don't want me talking about how stinking rich they are. So why is Brian so fucking filthy rich over this damn Luna? And I'm not that rich, but hey, we've done pretty well. But why? There's one reason only, and I'll say it's because you're definitely found the fundamental drivers, and that's what I'm going for. Is that fundamentally that Luna is the shit. So, who can tell me a story? Why would I buy this thing? Has it got a good fundamental driver? I can't answer the question. That's where I have to lean on you guys. I'm pretty good at discerning the stocks, but when it comes to crypto fundamentals, that's half of the reason why I built this site. Is that I need you guys to tell me that, oh, well, actually, that's a good project. Oh, that developer, he's smart. That guy's got a good reputation. Is that D-Max name? I have no idea. It's just H-bar, whatever the hell H-bar is. So, and actually, maybe we'll come back. This is Hedera. You know who likes this? Hedera. Who likes this? Derek likes this, doesn't he? Derek, are you around? Is that what you mean by D-Max? Is that what you mean by Derek? Yeah, he loves this, doesn't he, on the Wednesday show? So there you go. Stone cold. Okay, we got to figure out on Wednesday why the hell is this damn thing rallying. I mean, hopefully what you guys see here, and I think I remember on Wednesday we kind of said this, but it wasn't necessarily that this thing's just sort of dead. I don't think it's dead. I think it was just sort of, it's give me a fundamental reason for this thing to do something. So, I mean, do you see how this is basically our reload zone concept? I have to force myself to wait for this thing to come back down into reload zones. It's just that simple. So, like what I see here, who can tell me what is this 3-bar pattern? I mean, man, you learn this stuff and you'll be good to go. That 3-bar pattern, what is that called? If you can figure that stuff out, you're made in the shade. Somebody says Circle launched stable on H-bar. There you go. Thank you. How do you pronounce your name? Is it Ulian? Is the first letter of your name silent? Or do you hit the J? Is that an I? Ilian? Okay, it's just like Julian. All right. So I always see your name, and I'm always worried that I butcher. Sorry if I took time there to talk about that. But look at that, right? Give me 3 reasons for a trade, folks. Trendline support, reload zones, inverted head and shoulders. Inverted head and shoulders? Well, I suppose so. But how about inverted empire? Dun 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 dun. Bang, 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 bang! It's that good. So now every time you see this, I want you in your head to go. Whoop, now I screwed the song up. Bye, 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 bye. Bye-bye. Anyway, that's everything that we teach on the site. So it's super cool. that Mr. Algo is actually telling us to pay attention here. And right across the board, too. Look at that. And BTC, USD, USDT. I love that. That, to me, says that this thing's a buy right across the board. I love that. Que bella. I tell you, man, this shit's working. This is exactly what I wanted to see. I don't know. Oh, interesting. We should take a look at these. And that. Oh, I seem to remember we looked at this, and it kind of weird signal, especially if you're doing versus BNB. You got to be careful with BNB because it's pretty volatile unto itself. Okay. Hopefully, I gave you a nice little run through of sort of what we do on the site and all the fun little tools and toys that we have in store and. We have available. We're sort of in kind of mid vacation mode right now. I don't know if that's the right word. Last week of the Q3, Q4 term for the school basically wound up about a week or so ago. So that's why I didn't really do any sort of Q&A with the public. Just, public rant, blah, 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 blah. Hopefully I said something that was of some value to all you guys today. I don't know whether I did or not. Gave you a nice little overview of what I think about sort of the broader market and, demographics and bigger picture stuff. We also talked a little bit about the website and how we can use this information to sort of put sort of market into context. And talked a little bit about some of the breadth information and the signals information. I think it probably, if you invest for things like retirement funds and all like that, I think it's probably a good idea to take a real good look at those telephone companies right now. Clearly something's going on over there in that sector. And also, too, I think actually there's some money to be made in the pharma stocks as they're bottoming. And I am doing a lot of tax loss buying. Ironically enough, I'm doing tax loss buying just as the public, of course, is doing their tax loss selling. So, of course, typical contrarian. I do basically everything opposite of what the public does. So I've already got a list of a whole bunch of little penny junior stocks that I'm just accumulating away. So these are the ones that I did in years gone by. I don't know whether there'd be any, like Jugger actually looks interesting. If you are interested in investing in gold stocks, that one you can see it's basically just right at the bottom, just waiting for permission to go. I think the mining, this guy is an Ethereum miner, so he's coming back down. All the tax loss selling from all the idiots that bought up through here, they're getting flushed out, so there's probably some opportunities in there. Then new names that I've been accumulating, things like this Gila Copper, basically right down at the bottom end of his range. Gem, this is another one. This guy's in the battery space within the penny stock space. Same sort of thing. Anybody who bought through here, they're all selling right now, booking those capital losses. I don't mind stepping in and accumulating through that. There's my little funny little pharma piece of poo. Same sort of thing. You can actually see this is what I sort of produce on the site. Sort of walking everybody through all my trades and how I've been accumulating this thing. Some fun little names. This little Coco's an interesting copper name. One of our site members found that for me, so I'm going to be accumulating some of him. Yeah, and I mean there's just tons of them. The junior market, you saw that Russell 2000 right on its knees right now. And that's exactly what should happen into the tax loss selling window. Right? So they're just selling all the junior stocks, booking those losses, crying in their beers. If anything, I want to take advantage of that. Interesting, this Numi. Now, they just reorganized this, and this stock actually just left the venture exchange and got listed on the big board. And usually that's a pretty good sign. So I'll be interested to watch this. This guy's in the mushroom space. And then this guy, AEG, he's a pod stock. And same sort of thing. They rolled this stock back right at the bottom end of this range. And, anybody who had this stock from years gone by has just gotten absolutely crushed. So lots and lots of tax loss selling. That one, really, if you're interested in investing in the marijuana space, I love the structure of that one. Totally awesome. All right, so I think I covered the gamut here. I'm gonna go get pretty for the boy. So everybody, I said this to somebody else the other day. When you guys all wish me good luck with Liam and you're thinking positive thoughts, oh man, it's so awesome. We have a great set time. So everybody collectively, just take a moment when I'm done here. Ask the good Lord to pass along a little bit of positive karma for Liam. It looks like it's a relatively nice day. Blue skies, so we should have a really nice drive out in the countryside today. So thank you very much for your best wishes. And, of course, we'll be back at our post first thing in the morning to trade away. So, try not to... Ooh, interesting. Yeah. All right, I could probably talk for half an hour about this, but we'll leave that for tomorrow's conversation. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for the best wishes. Hey, take a good look at that H bar. If we gave you anything today, I think there's probably something going on with that H bar. So, and also too, there is another cryptocurrency I have been buying. It's kind of fun. It's Danny from the Magic Internet Money guy. He's a bit of a character. I think he's got a good heart, and I think on balance, he knows his shit. Whether this is a good investment idea, who knows? But he did mention that he really liked this project, and he thought the idea had merit. So when I heard him say that, I was like, fine, I want to strap some on. And everything that I teach in the school program, and this is basically what I do with everybody, it's what I did with my old client base, is I just, he was talking about it like up in here, and I don't want to go and chase. So what I want to do is just throw in my bids. Bid at 61.8, bid at 78.6, and I have another bid at 88.6. As you can see, this guy got filled, and I got one more bid working. If they want to dump it against these lows, great, I'll buy some more. If this thing actually goes on W's and takes off, then I'll just add some on the W's. But I don't see any of that just yet. We still got another week or two of tax loss selling. So if anything, I wouldn't mind getting another push lower in crypto. And actually, that might even give me an opportunity to buy that H bar down at the bottom. So, there's a couple names for you to chew on. Imagine that. I wasn't even thinking about giving you any ideas to think about here on the buy side, and I actually gave you two probably half-decent ideas to take a real good look at. All right. Is Brian going to be able to stop talking? We shall soon find out. Have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. All the best. The only thing left for Brian to say here is a big goodbye for now.